Welcome to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution.
If you like what you heard today, please like, share, and subscribe for more content about people centered HR. Welcome to Human Resources for the People. Today we have the story of the Federation of the Italian Bottle Blowers, a group that were put out of work by their own bosses, then bought factories to put their bosses out of work. I became aware of this story from the famed author Upton Sinclair, who was a writer of The Jungle, but he had many great books like The Brass Check and Oil that you should definitely check out. The account of this happening comes from Otto Pohl, a Jewish Hungarian author. Italian glassmakers had a small group of unions in 1900 that were widespread. At this time, many unions were made up of highly skilled people. This is a callback to the historic guilds of the Hanseatic League. The idea of a low skilled employee in a union was still somewhat new, but there were people who were low skilled in unions. The unionists eventually formed together to create the Federation of the Italian Bottle Blowers, and nearly 90% of all Italian glassmakers joined this union immediately. Four factories in Italy were united in what was called the Glass Trust. Trusts at this time were a type of cartel system where they controlled output and acted together to increase profit and decrease costs. These companies also acted in concert against the employees. In 1901, the Federation met and asked for more money, which included universal wage scales and a closed shop. A closed shop is a factory or location that only employs union workers. Similar to the modern era, the Federation was to act as a hiring hall for the factories. The factories in the Glass Trust agreed with the Federation and accepted a collective bargaining agreement in the years of 1901 and 1902. But a sizable company called The Glass refused. It had its sight on the Boucher bottle blowing machine, which was to revolutionize the business. The Glass's refusal triggered the Federation's strike. More than a third of the members of the Federation were out of a job for over 3 years. The glass blowers who were still employed continued to support the strikers by paying more into the strike assessments and by reducing their own hours to help employ the unemployed. The Glass Trust only agreed to this because it would help damage their opponent's business. At the end of 1902, the Federation Union got in trouble with the Glass Trust by embracing the idea of a cooperative bottle factory to employ the striking unemployed. The union wanted to start their own business. At this time, the strike against the company The Glass was still on. That corporation had lost about half a million lira during the strike because, on the other hand, with the few Italian and foreign strikebreakers it could secure, it produced only inferior goods and in small quantity. And on the other hand, the voucher machine proved to be impractical and useless. Finally, the company The Glass gave up the fight and merged its two plants with the Glass Trust in the spring of 1904. The Federated workers were victorious and the strike was called off. The union opened their first factory in Livorno, Italy. In October of 1903, the first furnace was lit. This factory for the unemployed workers was successful, so much so that they built another plant in 47 days. A normal plant at this time was built in 6 months. The first business year of the cooperative showed a net profit of 15,000 lira, surprising many when we consider the difficulties which every new enterprise encounters. The trust, still incredulous as to the final success of the cooperative, indulged in its dream of concentrating the whole Italian glass industry under its own leadership. A rude shock awakened it. The cooperative, instead of going bankrupt, set out to establish a bigger factory in Imola. The Socialist Municipal Council of Imola voted to give 100,000 lira to the cooperative as seed money for establishing a new bottle factory. The Glass Trust got frightened. It at once changed its attitude with the intention of destroying the union and the cooperative. It refused to sign the collective bargaining agreement for wages for the year 1905 to 1906, declaring that it would not renew the contract unless the cooperative formally gave up its intention of erecting the new factory in Imola, and unless it ceased to interfere commercially with the trust. Besides its direct declaration of war, the trust, which had in its directorate two members of the Italian parliament, tried to induce the government to declare illegal the act of the Municipal Council of Imola. Neither the Federation nor the cooperative nor Imola gave in. The trust refused definitely to comply with the demands of the organized workers, who then called a boycott upon the trust itself. The Federation doubled their efforts to make the factory in Imola ready and give work to the new masses of unemployed federated workers. Those who had not yet bought shares for the cooperative factory in Imola quickly did so. Those who had done so doubled and tripled the sum. In Milan, the bottle blowers bought 11,000 lira worth, thus expressing their confidence in their leaders. Through the boycott, many bottle blowers were out of work, and even the new factory in Imola was not big enough to employ them all. It was absolutely necessary to provide work for the unemployed comrades, and the best way seemed to be to erect a third factory. More money was put up to establish a factory near Milan, where the bottle blowers subscribed 30,000 lira for the cooperative. It wasn't enough. A fourth factory was needed, and in order to supply the demand for more labor, the cooperative leased another factory near Naples and put it in working order within a few months. The boycott on the trust brought better results than were expected. The cooperative had 4 furnaces in operation, turning out excellent goods and unable to fill the orders pouring in from all parts of Italy. At the end of the year, the cooperatives had all its 4 factories in operation, with 6 furnaces working 24 hours a day, and closed its yearly business with a net profit of 45,000 lira. It employed now all the federated bottle blowers that were striking, numbering about 1,500 men, while at the beginning it could place only 150 men. Besides this number, 400 federated workers were working under the federal tariff in an independent capitalist factory. The beginning of 1906 marked a great victory for the bottle blowers. The hard struggle that lasted 5 years brought its well-earned results. The cooperative factories worked at full capacity, no federated worker remained unemployed, and the material conditions of the cooperators improved very sensibly. And all this was accomplished without compromise, without bowing to the trust, without asking aid of any other class of workers. The number of cooperators, which at the beginning was 100, reached about this time 1,000, and their capital had increased to 500,000 lira from 50,000 lira. The daily production increased to 70 tons a day. On the other hand, the trust operated but 2 factories with foreign and Italian scabs, reducing its normal production to 1/2, and the goods produced in these plants were so under the standard of the co-op that many customers of the trust went over to the enterprise of the workers. The trust finally resorted to a most desperate move against the co-op in initiating a bitter commercial fight. It cut prices 30% under the cost of production. In this battle, the trust lost a couple million lira, while the co-op lost but 500,000. The trust, backed by the strongest bank of Italy, could easily afford such a sum for the realization of its scheme of finally getting control of the Italian bottle market. Capital was beaten decisively in this struggle and was utterly helpless before the will of the organized workers operating their own factories. Each of the factories of the co-op produced a special type of bottle of such quality that though it charged higher prices for them than the trust, it sold every product before it was ready for shipment. The policy of price cutting proved a total failure. During this commercial struggle, the co op erected its fifth factory in Asti, the center of a great wine district, adding another furnace to its enterprise, making a total of 7 completely modern furnaces. The trust abandoned its scheme of destroying the co op by underselling it, but still it entertained the hope of reestablishing its power by introducing the newest bottle blowing machine, invented by Owens, who was an American bottle blower. In 1906, the co op employed 2,000 workers who were all shareholders and belonged to the Federation of the Italian Bottle Blowers. The production of the co op embraced a little more than half of the national production, or about 25 million pieces of bottles a year. The net profit for 1906 was 300,000 lira. The trust and one independent factory produced the remaining smaller half of the national production. The Federation, together with the cooperative, has succeeded in uplifting the conditions of its workers to such a degree that the scabs have come to recognize their weakness in keeping out of these organizations and intend to join in the battle led by them, the clear cut aim of which is to expropriate from the trust and the independent factories and put the whole Italian bottle industry into the hands of the bottle workers. And so that is the story of how the unemployed workers started their own business and beat their former bosses. If you like what you heard today, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing you next time on Human Capital for the People.